WeightWatchers spent 60 years selling control. Then drugs began reducing hunger directly, so WeightWatchers started selling access to them. For decades, millions paid to count points, attend meetings, and make better decisions one meal at a time. The information was never the real product. The product was structure around appetite. GLP-1 medications challenged that value at its source. They did not offer a better diet or a more persuasive coach. For many patients, they reduced hunger and food noise themselves. That left WeightWatchers with an uncomfortable question. If medication can reduce the appetite WeightWatchers taught people to manage, what exactly is left for WeightWatchers to sell? Its answer was to enter clinical care and move behavior from the primary solution to the companion layer around treatment. But that move did not simply update the program. It changed the business beneath the brand. WeightWatchers often looked like a diet company, but information about dieting was never especially scarce. No one needed a membership to learn that some foods contained more calories than others. Knowing what to do was rarely the hardest part. Doing it again tomorrow was. WeightWatchers built a business around that gap. Its meetings created a recurring appointment. Its weigh-ins made progress measurable. Its coaches turned a bad week into a plan for the next one. And when the point system arrived in 1997, it converted complicated food decisions into a simple daily budget. Members were not paying for a secret. They were paying for behavioral infrastructure. When motivation weakened, the system remained. When one meal went badly, the next decision offered a reset. And when the process felt lonely, the community made it collective. That distinction matters because the value of this system depended on a recurring struggle. Appetite created decisions. Decisions created friction, and friction made structure valuable. A rival diet could offer different rules. A competing app could count calories more cheaply. But the real threat was not a better way to manage appetite. It was a treatment that could reduce appetite itself. GLP-1 drugs emerged from medicine, first for diabetes and later through treatments approved specifically for chronic weight management. They act on biological systems involved in blood sugar, appetite, and food intake. For many eligible patients, that can mean feeling satisfied sooner, eating less, and thinking about food less often. Many people described the result as less food noise, the constant negotiation becoming quieter. These medications did not make behavior irrelevant. They are not appropriate for everyone. They can involve side effects, cost, limited coverage, and ongoing medical care. Nutrition, movement, and daily habits still matter. But a disruption does not need to perform every part of a job. It only needs to reduce the part customers found most difficult. WeightWatchers had built structure around repeated moments of resistance. GLP-1 medications could change the appetite underneath those moments. That shifted consumer preference and the explanation of weight itself. The old commercial story emphasized choices, tracking, and accountability. The new medical story emphasized biology, chronic disease, and clinical treatment. Instead of paying only for help resisting hunger, some consumers were now willing to pay for care that could reduce it. And that left WeightWatchers with a choice neither side of its identity could survive unchanged. WeightWatchers could defend its traditional position. Sustainable weight management still required better habits and long-term support. Much of that remained true. But rejecting medication would have carried its own risk. The company could appear less committed to science than to protecting its old product. Worse, it could sound as if people who struggled simply had not followed the program well enough. The alternative was equally uncomfortable. Embracing medical treatment meant acknowledging that behavior alone was not always enough, and that some customers might need less of the system it had spent decades refining. The contradiction became visible through the company's most famous partner. Oprah Winfrey, a board member and investor since 2015, had become the brand's most recognizable face. After publicly discussing prescription weight loss medication, she chose not to seek re-election in 2024 and donated her financial interest partly to avoid a perceived conflict. WeightWatchers' most visible symbol was now helping shift the conversation from shame and willpower toward biology and treatment. GLP-1 drugs did not create every weakness. WeightWatchers already faced digital competition, declining demand in parts of its traditional business, and a heavy debt burden. But the drugs exposed a deeper vulnerability. WeightWatchers was built to help manage a struggle that medicine could now partially reduce. So the company chose the most contradictory option. It bought its way into the disruption. In 2023, WeightWatchers acquired Sequence, a subscription telehealth platform focused on chronic weight management. The effective net purchase price was roughly $106 million. Sequence did not manufacture GLP-1 drugs. It provided the infrastructure around access to them: clinicians trained in obesity care, ongoing support, insurance navigation, and medication management. WeightWatchers integrated the platform into its app and renamed it WeightWatchers Clinic. Now look at what the company had actually purchased. For decades, WeightWatchers had charged people for a system designed to help them manage appetite through behavior. Now it owned a clinical subscription business that could help eligible members access treatments designed to reduce appetite biologically. WeightWatchers didn't manufacture the drugs. It acquired the infrastructure to become the bridge to them. Its biggest threat had become its new business. That was more than a philosophical reversal. It created a powerful economic incentive. If customers were moving toward medical treatment, WeightWatchers no longer had to lose the entire relationship. It could earn revenue from a higher-value clinical subscription, keep members inside its app, and attach nutrition, coaching, workshops, and community to the same experience. The disruption was no longer only taking value away from WeightWatchers. It was creating a new point of entry into WeightWatchers. But selling access to treatment created a second problem. How do you keep selling the system that treatment just weakened? The answer required WeightWatchers to redefine what its behavioral program was for. For someone taking a GLP-1 medication, the central challenge may no longer be resisting a constant appetite. It may be eating well when appetite is low, consuming enough protein, remaining active, monitoring symptoms, and building routines that can survive changes in treatment. So WeightWatchers created a program designed around that different experience. The emphasis shifted toward protein, nutrient-dense foods, hydration, activity, symptom tracking, and practical support. Members could still use coaches, workshops, and community. But those tools now served a different purpose. They were no longer presented only as the mechanism that produced weight loss. They became the support system surrounding a clinical intervention. Behavior moved from being the primary solution to becoming the companion layer around clinical treatment. That is the strategic transformation beneath the product updates. The old model asked customers to choose behavior as the answer. The new model placed behavior around medicine. What was left for WeightWatchers to sell was not a rival to the drug. It was the collection of services the drug did not provide: care coordination, nutrition guidance, accountability, tracking, community, and help managing the experience over time. Coaches, tracking, and community could become valuable again, not as alternatives to treatment, but as support before, during, and around it. The strategic logic was clear. But a logical pivot is not the same as a successful rescue. The clinical pivot did not erase WeightWatchers' older problems. In May 2025, the company entered a prepackaged Chapter 11 process. The reorganization eventually removed roughly $1.15 billion of debt from its balance sheet. It would be easy to describe that bankruptcy as Ozempic killing WeightWatchers. It would also be wrong. The company carried substantial legacy debt. Its traditional subscription business had faced years of pressure. Free apps had made tracking easier to copy. In-person workshops were harder to scale, and consumer ideas about dieting were already changing. GLP-1 adoption intensified those pressures. It did not create all of them. The results after the restructuring show both the promise and the limits of the pivot. By the middle of 2026, WeightWatchers reported that clinical subscribers had grown nearly 56% from a year earlier. Clinical subscription revenue was up about 30%. Its higher-value behavioral tier was also growing, suggesting that demand for support had not disappeared. But clinical care remained one part of a much larger business, and the market was becoming more crowded. Telehealth companies could offer access. Drug manufacturers could build direct relationships with patients, and competitors could promise similar combinations of medication, coaching, and tracking. WeightWatchers had found a way into the new market. It had not proven that it would own that market. That is the difficult truth about strategic adaptation. A move can be necessary and still be insufficient. A company can understand the disruption and still struggle to build an advantage inside the world it creates. The pivot might preserve the company, but it could not preserve the original bargain with the customer. The original bargain was simple. WeightWatchers would provide the structure. The member would provide the effort. And together, they would manage appetite through repeated choices. GLP-1 medications did not eliminate the need for choices, but they changed where the hardest work could happen and who could be paid to make that work easier. That is why the WeightWatchers story is larger than dieting or pharmaceuticals. It is about what happens when technology does not merely improve your product, but reduces the struggle that made your product valuable. WeightWatchers' pivot was both an adaptation and an admission. Behavior still mattered, but it could no longer carry the entire product. The company that once sold a system for controlling appetite is now trying to become the system surrounding a treatment that reduces it. That was the hidden incentive. Not to defeat the disruption, but to become the layer around it. The most dangerous innovation does not beat your solution at its own game. It changes the game until customers need less of what you were built to sell. And sometimes, the only way to save the company is to stop trying to save the business it used to be. For more stories about the incentives companies rarely say out loud, subscribe to The Hidden Incentive.